a trend that I think is happening is that meat is in a position to stop being so apologetic. So we are creating good and important data around the role of meat in the environment.
Hello, me folks. Welcome back to the MeatsPad podcast. My name is Francisco Najar, and we're back at RMC this year. We're kicking off this podcast. We, as always, we want to visit with the CEO, Collette Kaster of AMSA. And this year, the 77th RMC, and we're in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Welcome, Collette.
Thank you. Super glad to be here talking with you again, and super glad to be here in Oklahoma City.
Thank you very much for first of all for having us here. This is, I think, the fourth time that we bring the equipment, and I think it's just the best time of the year to convene and visit with a lot of folks that we don't get to see every year. And as I get older, I mean, when I talk to people, like I saw you last year, but it seems like it was not a full year. I mean, I don't know. It just is weird with, growing up and getting older and older. But how's everything? How's everything? I know. Doing a lot of things. You've been busy. We have a lot of topics that we want to cover a little bit. A lot of the international engagement. We got the Meet the Future. We got a lot of things, but I think we're going to start off by how many people are we expecting this year at RMC?
So we are blowing past 1,000 people, and we had hopes that it would be an extra big RMC and break another record, but it blew past 1,000 and is heading toward 1,100 people that are here.
And last year, how many we were in?
970.
Okay.
Which was another record.
Yeah. And you know because I see a lot of new faces again, which is, we're getting more and more, and sometimes people say, no, I think the meat industry, like, we need more and more hands, but I think we're seeing more and more people, a lot of new students, and I think that's good. Tell us about the proportion. We got industry people, we got academia for sure, we got students.
Yeah, that's right. No, we have a perfect blend. So not only do we have, and just as you said, industry, academia, students. Within those groups, then we have further breakdown. So we have all of our sustaining partners are here, and they bring a lot of people from other disciplines too. And so when we do the career fair, I don't know if you had a chance to walk through that yesterday, but the career fair was our biggest career fair ever. We've got the supplier showcase and the technical talks, and so we have people who are just learning about American Meat Science Association, learning how their businesses interact with people who are meat scientists. So it's pretty darn exciting.
For the people that couldn't come, I guess they were busy. I have some folks that this year won't be able to come, and I'm doing business or whatever. But in maybe in 1 or 2 minutes, can you explain, like, in a very brief, what's new about this RMC, or what some of the a little bit about what's different from last year for some of the folks that missed, and we just had Shaki with Dr. Baz, and we'll get to have some of the keynotes here, but for those of the folks that weren't able to come, maybe you can tell us a little bit about what was different this year than last year, and some of the new things going on.
Well, maybe I'll even back up a step, and I'll talk about what it takes to put together an RMC. And so of course, that Deidre Mabry is the ringleader of the RMC team.
Thank you, Deidre.
Yes, go Deidre. And so that includes everything from the logistics, the meeting, and the content. And so she and the RMC chair, which is an elected position, each year they put together the technical content. And one thing that we began a few years ago was to make sure that we were covering all aspects of the discipline of meat science, because as you know, meat science is very broad, and we cover everything from cellular research through product development, food safety, all the way through things like pet food and rendering. And so we wanted to be sure that we didn't get distracted by focusing on just the hot topics for that year or that time frame that the committee comes together. So Deidre and her team work in tracks, and so there's 6 tracks that relate to product quality, food safety, education, teaching, research. We try to look at all the constituents of both the membership and the people that will come to the meeting to be sure that we're checking the boxes for what they need from a science perspective in their discipline.
Excellent. No, I think it's right on. And you mentioned pet food and rendering, and that keeps bringing it up. Many companies, they, like maybe 5-10 years ago, when I started coming here, this is my 9th year attending as a student and in the industry. But I didn't see a lot of the topic like sustainability. Like 10 years ago, I mean, we didn't see a lot, and like pet food rendering, it's getting more and more attention, which I think, and it's good that you were attracting folks in the industry, in academia, who are doing research, and also working with companies targeting those needs.
Yeah, that's a great point. And another area just like that, like you mentioned sustainability and the increasing interest in that, area that we feel very strongly about focusing on in the coming future is the role of meat in the diet and human nutrition. And we know that the trade associations have great people working in nutrition and trying to do good outreach to get the story out about what an important factor meat is in the diet, instead of all the negative things that you hear people talking about. And so our staff team, including Dr. Calhoun, is really working to bridge that and work across the different protein sectors to make sure that we're pulling in the best science, that we're arming our scientists with information so that they might be working in product development, but they're getting questions from their customers, people that they know about meat in the diet, and we want to provide them that too.
And I think along those lines, there's an audience, and more, I mean, the online aspect of things, and I think you've been here, you actually putting a lot of effort into going more online, and this is an example, right? I mean, the route or the platform of a podcast, and I think that was actually on the talk in the mornings, like those avenues for other people, and as you said, like why is meat important in the diet? And there's a lot of propaganda or agendas anti-meat, and I think stuff like this we need to put more out of. So I think it's good. Maybe you can mention a little bit of your effort on more and more online.
Yeah, I will, but I'm also gonna say, so of course we all want to increase our online presence, and so we're trying to do things like MeatsPad, which I would like to give a big thanks to you and Dr. Bass, because your efforts in this area and coming here, and I always tease you guys that you really don't get to go to RMC because you take turns being holed up in this room, but it's such a rich environment to interview people. So setting that aside, we're doing a lot more webinars. We're recording content, as you said, to make it available for people who can't be here. But all that aside, this is proving, along with many other things, that nothing replaces human-to-human interaction, having those casual conversations, hearing something and then having an additional dialogue about it, setting up follow-up meetings when you're together at a meeting like this. And so I think having record attendance is a reflection that people want to be together conversing about these things.
I had a question that I want. I mean, I always typically somebody I ask out of the people we interview about the trends, the new trends in the meat industry, and you're very close. You're right in the middle between academia, industry, and a little bit of USDA and government. But what do you see different? I mean, going from 2023 to 2024, what can we expect in the near future? I mean, you talk about lab-grown meat. You talk about like doing more online, but also the importance of human interaction. But I think maybe you have another perspective on the near future of the meat industry.
Yeah. Well, a trend that I think is happening is that meat is in a position to stop being so apologetic. So we are creating good and important data around the role of meat in the environment. So I just came from the session that Dr. Place was giving about really, sort of laying out all the arguments that people have about the role of particularly beef production, but the other proteins as well on the environment. But the trade-offs that you have if you look at what would you do instead? Would you, as she said, turn the cropland into zucchini or that kind of thing. And so looking at these trade-offs, meat is, I think, taking its place as an important nutritional component. And I think more people are comfortable saying that. And so we're looking at, things that are simple ingredient statements. Last year we had a huge session about cell-cultivated meat. So the label approvals were just taking place. Some of the initial facilities were coming online. There was still a lot of product development in the plant-based world, but that has shifted. Some of people's thoughts about that have shifted as well. And so we want to be, just as I probably said last year, open-minded. We're scientists, we're technical people. We want to make what people demand and choose to eat. And if that changes and kind of morphs over time back to where it's more of a traditional meat product, which is what I think that we're seeing, then so be it.
I like what you said about data, and I think in research, it's the more important thing, data, but science-based decisions on and content. You see some folks or people going against. You could talk about the meat industry, but against of something, but they don't have the right credentials the right influence to say something wrong or right about something. But I think we're gonna see more and more science-based platforms because I think consumers are eager to know more about the true. The true of meat.
Yeah. Well, and it's really the truth about protein is what we're talking about, right? And so we know the role of protein for all ages of people is critical, whether it's your first 1,000 days of life or in a geriatric population where they're constantly deficient in protein, and then you have all the concurrent issues that go along with that. We see an uptick in people's interest in training, fitness, weights, protein intake. We see some really awesome data coming from Europe about these kind of things, and the data that Dr. Stanton and Frederick Lavoie presented. And so I just think when you really look at the big picture, it's kind of exciting.
It is, and it's and I want to thank your team, my team, to make this possible because it's a lot of work. You mentioned Deidre, all the things that we don't get to see, and we just see like, oh, this is easy. But when you start putting everything together, like from basically a year before, it's worth it. It's very worth it.
For sure. The event last night was awesome. That museum, I want to come back down here as soon as possible and go visit that museum. It was just tremendous.
Thank you, Collette, for having us. Thank you for Collette for being that bridge in the industry, and let's keep pushing.
Yeah, happy to do so. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, folks. We'll see you next year in 2025. So we can talk briefly about next RMC.
Okay.
Go on.
2025, the Ohio State University, and we'll see the welcome video on Wednesday morning. It's going to be epic. It'll have its own unique flavor, so to speak, right? So I know that Ben and Lyda and Dr. Knipe and the whole team from Ohio State are really going to work together to put together a great program, and Dr. Gary Sullivan will be the RMC chair next year.
Looking forward to that. Thank you very much, folks. We'll see you next time.